about that first part. Like I said, I didn't feel led to touch the bowl because I'm asking intent questions. Like,
Right.
you know, we're trying to have a flow. I don't want to have too little content. I don't have, go over. So that's why I'm like, okay, I'll drink water, but I don't want to. And I'm just realizing that I wore a color really similar to this chair. I'll probably need to ever do that again. Is it good? Okay, looks good. Okay, you know the fashion part, so that doesn't, okay, doesn't blend. Like, where is she? I just see her head. Okay.
You just disappear.
Like a green screen, like, hey, there's a bobbling head. Okay. Okay, it does. Okay, thank you. Because I put a little turquoise in there okay. So how you feel about that? You feel good? We're still rolling,
Great.
but how you feel good? Okay.
Really good.
I will probably bring, it tastes good.
Well, that
Like-
tastes good.
I just got a flavor of summertime on the grill, barbecue, backyard,
Okay.
and some soul music playing, some young blood.
Okay.
That whole bite just gave me that.
Oh, I love it.
That whole bite just gave me a whole scenario, a party. I don't know where it was.
An experience.
It was a whole experience. Just that one, because I tasted the grilled part. But it was grilled freshness, right? That's what food does. I'm sorry. That's why I like to incorporate, and really the food part was not the original concept.
Really?
When Dan asked me in January to, if there's a show I want to do, said, something about pregnancy and birth and all, just had a workshop. So then I'm trying to think when the word dish I know I had a dream where it was a gathering of doulas. I'm going to call her out in this show, but Jamila, Fahamu's wife, had just gotten her certification. And she was in my dream. Then I saw her the next day at a performance.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, there's that, because I hadn't seen her in a long time. I said, I just had a dream about you last night. She said, okay, well, I'll come to you and we can talk about it. Through talking to her, it was like, it was a meeting of doulas. Because really, this is also another thing. I've been so into the show. I want to do a Dish with the Doulas collective, like an actual gathering,
Right.
where it's several doulas, just people from the birth community, and we have expected parents, and we have new moms, or we have moms of maybe multiples, that want to refresh her or just want to be in the mix of things, new doulas, people that are considering being doulas, and it's just an informal conversation about what's going on, about concerns, about just whatever they want to talk about. Again, and we didn't talk about in the first episode. We can talk about it here about sharing information.
Yes.
We talked about this in the car. That is to know what was Sankofa, to be able to know where you're going.
Right.
I understand being present is where it's at. I get that. But they don't have history majors in history class for nothing. There's important lessons to learn about what happened. So if it's something that's favorable, you can maybe repeat. Or if it's something that's not favorable, you can do something different. Like, that's important to know what your mother went through, to know her birth story, to know your mother's birth story. My mother, she was in the hospital a month after I was born. Cord was wrapped around my neck. I almost didn't make it to the side, right? And so the doctors always told her told my parents, she came here for a reason. She got something to say, and she gonna say it real loud. Because she fought to be here. My mom, and that's where my grandmother came to live with us, because my sister was 6 at the time. So my father needed assistance. He needed some, and my grandmother lived with us for 13 years. So I had that experience. But, I remember when I was little and seeing the incision, and knowing that I had something to do with it. It made me feel a certain kind of way when I was younger, before we had the conversation about what really took place.
Right.
But just knowing her story and just knowing how scary that was,
Right.
but then having support of my grandmother and my father, and just, that's important to know. I don't know my grandmother's story. I didn't get a chance to talk with her about that. But I have my mother's story, and I have my mother here to still have conversations.
Right.
And then also, her marks encouraged me to call my stretch marks my warrior marks, because you get them, Some get them more than others. But I wanted my children to know that these weren't scars, that mommy wasn't hurt. These were what grew me into warrior mama, and this is a marking of it. So my children now actually kind of fight over, those are my warrior marks. Those are my warrior marks. I'm like, okay, there's enough for everybody. I can tell you when they developed, but that's a connection that y'all know. I remind them often that they, how they were born into this world, and I read them their birth stories every birthday.
That's beautiful.
So it's not just for me to just read what happened, but it's also for them to really know who the players were and what went down when you were born. Yeah. And another friend of mine does that with her daughter. We read birth stories every birthday. And at this point, Solomon's 15. He's just like, okay, he listens. He knows his story, right? But there's a connection that they have. Sophia, she's 7, and she goes through her baby book that we have, and then she knows the story. She knows that the first picture of her and daddy, I took it. We were still connected. You can see the umbilical cord in the picture. I got back on the toilet and took a picture. I was like, okay, let's get this picture before we go into the other room, She knows that story. Sarah knows that the picture of the water birth, it wasn't a water birth, we got into the water afterwards, but that picture's been circulating all over for years, with the placenta in the bowl, in the tub with us, and then Toliwa, there's a picture of her assisting me nursing while she's nursing her daughter. She's on the outside of the Toliwa. We got to schedule your Toliwa. Like, I don't know when we're going to get you in here. Every episode, your name's mentioned.
Yes.
But we're in the tub, the three of us, me and Kenyatta and Sarah, and she's assisting me with one hand while she's cradling and nursing her daughter. Oh, I mean, just women... a women-shaped world. And I'm so grateful for people like you that are part of my world, that I know have, like you said, we get together and we have these but it's the magic,
I'm grateful for us. And I'm grateful for all of the ones who have stepped up to do the work, because one of the things that I realized along the way is that birth work is not just about bringing healthy babies into the world, making sure that mothers are healthy. This is about healing communities. It goes beyond the birth experience. And I realized that it is. I realized that when I was, I think I was at a lunch and learn at Marsha Ford's office, and there was some conversation going on about the needs, the needs of the mothers, the needs of the fathers, and it just kind of occurred to me.
And are they being met?
Right.
Are people even speaking of what their needs are? Or how to even articulate what their needs are?
All of it. But like when all of the pieces were coming together, it was like, oh, wow. This is community building. This is really what we're doing.
It's nation building.
It is. It really, really is. So, I'm elated to really be a part of this work, because I feel like I have found my purpose. And all of the different things that I do, because I did go through a period of time in my early adulthood of feeling a little scattered, because I felt like I was on these divergent paths.
You had flashes of the visions, of the purpose, right? But how they came together.
Yeah, the birth work, and again, when you ask, like, how did I get into this? I went through a period as well of having women ask me, do you attend labors? Do you do, even with the massage, you do pregnancy massage? It was just like...
It kept coming up.
It kept coming up. And I was like, okay.
I hear you again.
I'm supposed to be doing this.
Wow.
So, it just, I can't say enough about it. I'm very, very grateful to be...
Through the birth work, you just reminded me of this. There's been something that's been released in me, in my family, in doing this show. And we just started filming. When did we start our first show? A month ago. You're episode 6, right? Episode 6. So there's been order. I mean, I'm glad that there's an accountability that we've had, in the taping of it, and the producing of it, and the editing of it, and just being consistent. So it's kept me on point with just keep moving, right? But the birth work has unearthed something in my life. And I've been a mother for 15 years. And so it's not like I didn't have these stories under my bag, right?
Right.
But the way it's culminated like this and reconnecting people, meeting new people, the next guest, we just met 3 weeks ago. Now, I've been connected somewhat to her for some time, but it was on another lane.
Okay.
But it's at the birth where everything, and I mean the birth, not just the birth of babies, the birth of ideas, the birth of realizations, the birth of grace, the birth of surrender, the birth of, it's at that point where just so much comes through you and to you. The amount of abundance that I'm experiencing right now. I literally went to an abundance workshop last week. Waking up to abundance. And it reconnected, there were some things that I knew, but just really didn't hear it I heard it in a different way. I really credit this experience. Because I literally just came out of cocoon January, beginning of February, coming from grief for my dad's passing. I was literally under the covers. I mean, I had to still operate, I have a family, and so it was functional depression, but there were a couple of events that I'm a part of that was contracted to do, and so that got me physically out the house and physically having to have conversations. But then once that happened, it was like the ripple effect again. I opened myself and more opened up, but there was a level of surrender that it's going to be okay regardless. If I do go to a place of having to quiet again, I'll need that. That's one thing I'm learning, is that being on all the time is not necessarily, and not feeling bad for not being on all the time. I always think, well, I should be productive and I should be out. There's a season for all that. I'm clear. If I had ever had any questions, I'm clear. There's a season for me to be producing. There's a season for me to rest.
Yes.
There's a season where I can do both. I'm a Libra, so I believe in the balance. There's a season of isolation. There was something I saw recently that said that I'm creating the boundaries for my healing. It's not about pushing you away. Like, it's not even about you. I'm creating boundaries and I'm creating certain standards to heal and protect myself. And when you have a tribe of people that understand that, we check in, make sure you're okay, you need anything, but then I'm gonna step out, right? We give you the space to do it because we all go through it.
Right.
But it was through this where I really was like, oh, this work has been waiting for me for a long time. But I had to go through some things.
Yeah.
I had to go to a place that I really, it was uncomfortable. I had to peel back the layers of grief and loss to get to a place of understanding my purpose and my passions and being on point. But I had to go to a really scary place, that no one could guide me to, that no one could tell me when to do it, how to do it. I had to just be ready to do it and surrender myself to do it. And that's where I found this. That's where I found it. And there may be another layer of, next year. I don't know.
Right.
It's a process. There ebb and flows. But it was going to a place that I really didn't want to go to, where I had to really look at myself and what I was telling myself, what I was, putting in my body, what I was, who I was surrounding myself. All of that comes into play. And then, do you want to keep feeling this way? What do you want to do with this? Because everything begins and ends with me. I can put it on other people if I want, but I'm choosing for them in my life, so it's still on me.
Right.
But this is what I'm finding where the release, where the freedom is.
It's beautiful.
Who'd have thunk it?
It's beautiful. I'm really happy that you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And that you have found, I don't want to say your place in this, but just.
It's my place now.
Yeah.
It is. I always said, I'm gonna take a little sip of lemon water. But I always, my first birth story, I said, I'll be a doula.
No.
That's not my place. Then I said birth educator, which I think I am. I know that there's a certification to that process, but having 3 unassisted home births, I think qualifies me for some things.
Oh my goodness, just what, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
So I had a client who delivered in the wee hours of Monday morning, this past Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We did our second prenatal Sunday.
Okay.
But in the in-between time, I forwarded her the first episode
Yes.
with you telling your stories.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, I want you to watch this. Because it was so inspiring, you know what I'm
thank
saying? And I
you.
think so many women struggle with the question of, can I do this? You know, and to have 3 unassisted births. Like, and I communicated that to you, like, oh, I see you. Like how you talked about, like, knowing each other for years.
You said,
and you
nice to make your acquaintance. I was like, we haven't met in a long time. But I understood what you're saying because you hadn't heard the story before
Right.
like that. And I hadn't even known your story before, you know? So it's like, nice to meet you, Shanti.
Yeah.
I've known and loved you forever, but nice to meet you today.
Yeah.
And having a different level of understanding of where someone's coming from. So, well, thank you for sharing that with her. Because to me, I don't know how far this, you know, the thing and the miracle of social media and YouTube and all the different social medias, you know, you just never know. There are people that watch these shows at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning that leave comments. It's like, huh? I may just happen to be up to see it, you
Right.
know. Of course, I have my base and the folks that I share with this, that, and the other. But there are folks that are sharing. They're sharing. And then folks that are just doing a search on doula and may stumble across it somehow.
Right.
You know, it's like you never know who's listening, who's watching. And not to say that you should be doing it for them, but just know that your story goes further than just what we're saying.
It ripples.
And it ripples, you know, and someone is learning that, oh, I can do that too, or maybe I don't want to go that route. Maybe I want to go, but it still starts the conversation. I think that's what the important part is, to have these conversations that for me are kind of commonplace, but not everybody's me and not everybody's around the people that I'm around.
Right.
So I don't want to say I take it for granted, but I'm just used to it. So when I meet someone that's never known someone that's had a home birth, I'm like, oh, well, let's sit down. Let me talk to you about something, you know?
Right.
Because to me, I'm just kind of used to that. I know there's so many women that are friends of mine that have had home births. We've had all kinds of experiences, but so I know for some people it's a new thing, you know, and I can't take that for granted that for some people, they're just learning about something for the first time today.
Yeah. And you never know when your story is going to light the way or light the path for someone else.
Bless the way.
Yes.
Bless the way. And I think we're going to come to a close on that because that was a word. I'm at this camera, Dan. Excellent. So again, this is the after. I don't really have a name for this. The after show set. I've been calling it. Actually, my phone, the predictive test will have after, then show, then segment because I've been typing it the whole time. But I'm not sure if I have a name for this. It's still part of Dish with the Doulas, so you can find all that. But thank you for joining us. We're going to finish up our meal and watch all the other episodes of Dish with the Doulas. There's Shanti's episode, and there's Christy's episode, and Tamika's, and Darnita, and then mine, and more to come. So thank you for joining us. Pow. How'd that look, Dan? That looked crazy.